The uneasy peace did not last long. A huge army comprising of the Quraysh, 6 Arabian tribes, and over 2,500 camels loaded with war equipment and cavalry started to attack Medina. The Prophet held a meeting, seeking consultation over the matter with his companions. Salman al-Farisi put forward the idea of cutting a trench around the entire city to impair the advancement of the unbelievers. This brilliant strategy was accepted by the Prophet ﷺ, and the work soon begun. Labouring hard for 1 whole week, they were able to prepare the 9,000-foot-long trench, preventing the advancement. Tent was at the spot on which Masjid al-Fath now stands. The same state of affairs continued for days. However, one night there was a terrible storm. It was a heavy downpour of rain, thunder and lightning. The tents of the unbelievers were ripped from their very stakes and cast into the storm. Before dawn, the remaining enemy troops left Khandak as they mistakenly believed that the Muslims had crossed the trench and attacked them during the night. Allah the Almighty's wrath had saved the Muslims from a potentially disastrous fate. Khaybar. A 10-year truce was established between the Muslims and the unbelievers through the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, but it proved inevitable, following the treacherous betrayal of the Jews during the Battle of the Trench, that this peace would not last long. So a 100-man strong cavalry and 160 strong infantry set out for Khaybar under the leadership of the Prophet himself. This is the Marhab fort of the Jews of Khaybar. Muslims blockaded the fort for days at a stretch. After a fierce battle, the Jews came out of the fort to surrender. Even after the passage of 1400 years, these forts, made by arranging date palms close to each other and by plastering them with clay and straw, exist as a mute witness to history. The remains of the houses of the Jews can be seen even now. This is a synagogue at Khaybar. It is not the policy of the Prophet ﷺ to slaughter unbelievers. He treated the Jews who had surrendered to him with kindness, and sheets of the Torah confiscated from them were returned. The Prophet was also reconciled with their demand to give the Jews back the right of ownership to agricultural land. The Muslim army returned from Khaybar only after signing a peace accord with the Jews.
وَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسَّلْمِ فَاجْنَحْ لَهَا وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَإِن يُرِيدُوا أَن يَخْدَعُوكَ فَإِنَّ حَسْبَكَ اللَّهُ هُوَ الَّذِي أَيَّدَكَ بِنَصْرِهِ وَبِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ.
The letters of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Prophet Muhammad is the Prophet who was sent to guide the whole of mankind to the right path. This is a copy of the letter the Prophet sent to the governor of Bahrain. You can see here the seal, Muhammad Rasulullah, impressed with his finger ring on these letters. And this is the copy of the letter sent by the Prophet to Mulk-al-Qadis, the king of Egypt who embraced Islam. The handwriting is not that of the Prophet himself, but that of one of his companions. Mutha. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ sent a messenger to the governor of Emperor Heraclius in Syria. It was in 629 AC that Haris bin Umar al-Azdi travelled thousands of kilometers across the scorching desert on horseback and reached Mutha near the Al-Karak in Jordan. There he handed over the Prophet's letter, but was ruthlessly murdered without delay. The Prophet dispatched an army of 3,000 men under the leadership of his foster son Zayd to bring to account those who had violated the custom of sparing the lives of emissaries entrusted to deliver messages. As he bade them farewell, he ordered, "Do not murder women, children and the elderly. Do not cut down trees. May Allah the Almighty be with you." The army, which marched from Medina, traversed along the northern deserts of Arabia and reached Mutha, which lies in what is now modern-day Jordan.
قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله.
This is the Mutha battlefield, in which 200,000 enemy soldiers met the 3,000-strong Muslim army. The stones lying as stacks are the remains of the memorial erected during the reign of the Umayyad king Abdul Malik. Zaidu, who leapt into the midst of the enemy troops with the Prophet's standard, fell a martyr in the Battle of Mutha. At once, Jafar ibn Abdul Muttalib took the flag and tore his way into the enemy ranks. When his arms were cut from his body, he held the flag in his armpits. When his legs were also cut away, he fell a martyr in this spot. Abdullah ibn Rahaway also darted into the enemy ranks and fell a martyr at this very spot.
ولا ينالون من عدو نيلا إلا كتب لهم به عمل صالح إن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين.
What stands prominent is not their tombs, but the memorial erected on the spot of their martyrdom. When the Prophet was told of their martyrdom, he gave the good tidings that their souls had been raised into heaven. When the three commanders had flown into the divine presence, Khalid ibn Walid, a spirited veteran commander, took charge and made new formations in deploying the army. The Roman soldiers thought that the Muslim army had been replenished by a fresh supply from Medina and hastily deserted the field. It became evident once more that it was not the strength of the army, but Allah the Almighty's succor and substance that brought about their success. The victory of Mecca. After the unbelievers had broken the treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ marched with 10,000 Muslims towards Mecca across the hot Arabian sands. When Mecca fell to him, the Prophet declared pardon to those Qurayshi and their leaders who had ousted him and his companions from their homes unjustly years earlier. The Quraysh were given freedom to live according to their own customs. This is just one of the many incidences to refute the charge that Islam had been spread by the use of the sword. Allah in the Quran says, "Revile not those whom they call upon besides Allah." The noble Quran enjoins upon every Muslim to do good and give justice to all non-Muslims who do not declare war on them on the basis of religion. Allah forbids you not with regards to those who fight you not for your faith, nor drive you out of your homes from dealing kindly and justly with them. The well of Uthman. During a severe drought in Medina, the only well which remained filled with water was in the ownership of Rumah, a Jew. The Prophet ﷺ announced that heaven is the reward for those who could buy Rumah's well and hand it over for the use of the Muslims. Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, who heard this, bought the well for 20,000 dirham and donated it for the use of the community. This well lies 5 kilometers away from Medina and has plenty of water in it. Hajjatul Wada, or the farewell Hajj. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made known his intention to perform the Hajj. The announcement reverberated throughout the length and breadth of the Arabian Peninsula. Small hamlets, mountain valleys, deserts, as well as towns answered that call. People flowed into Medina. The Prophet ﷺ set out from Mecca, along with nearly 100 true believers, 3 months before his death. It was the place where the Prophet encamped at Mina, where the Masjid Al-Khaif was built. This is the Masjid un-Namira of Arafah. What follows is a summary of the sermon delivered by the Prophet here on the 9th of Hajj, the month of Dhul Hijr. After praising and thanking Allah, he said, O people, lend me an attentive ear, for I know not whether after this year I shall ever be amongst you again. Return the goods entrusted to you to their rightful owners. Allah has forbidden you to take usury, interest. Therefore all interest obligations shall henceforth be waived. O people, it is true that you have certain rights with regard to your women, but they also have rights over you. Remember that you have taken them only as your wives under Allah's trust and with His permission. So treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed helpers. Remember, one day you will appear before Allah and answer for your deeds. So beware, do not stray from the path of righteousness after I am gone. I leave behind two things, the Quran and my example, the Sunnah. And if you follow these, you will never go astray. Be my witness, O Allah, that I have conveyed your message to your people. People called out in a single voice, Yes. The Prophet pointed his finger to the sky and said, O Allah, bear you witness. Muslims from all nations of the world assemble here on the day of Arafah, the 9th of Dhul Hijr, irrespective of their color, language or economic status. This is a reminder of the gathering of mankind on the Day of Judgment. This is the Muzdalifah Masjid, when all people will be assembled at Massa, the assembling place, to face the trial of Allah the Almighty. Muzdalifah is a point at which the Hajj pilgrims stay for a while on their way from Arafah to Mina. This reminds us of the temporary life between the mother's womb and that of their life hereafter. It was once the public burial ground in the city of Medina. People call it Jannatul Baqi. It has been there from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until today. It is here that the Prophet's wives, children and many prominent companions, including Uthman ibn Affan, had been laid to rest. The Prophet departs, 632 AD, June the 8th. It was on that day that the last Prophet of God bade farewell to this world, placing a seal on the long chain of prophethood. Muhammad ﷺ breathed his last in the house of Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. He was buried here. The Prophet ﷺ lies inside this Rula Sharif near the Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina. The grave of Abu Bakr and Umar al-Faruq, may Allah be pleased with them, is also seen.
وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم.
Born to Amina and Abdullah in 570 of the Christian era in Arabia, long before the advancement of the modern sciences, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had become an orphan very early in his life. He had not studied at college or university, was not even able to read or write, but had won the title of Al-Amin, the truthful one, from the very mouths of his staunchest enemies. The humble Prophet ﷺ had never once uttered words remotely comparable to those found in the Quran before his 40th birthday. What we have witnessed so far is the historical confirmation of the divine validity of the noble Quran, not the Prophet's words, but God's enduring words. The Quran is a scripture that gives meaning to all aspects of life, transforming even the most mundane of tasks into an act of worship. Never forget this truth. God, supreme Lord of all the worlds, is one and has no equal. He is Allah, the Almighty. Him alone should we worship. Pray to Him without intermediates. He is not part of His creation, but the creator of all creation. This truth of truths was declared by all of the prophets, from Adam, through Moses, through Jesus, up to Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all. Noble and purified messengers of God, giving warnings to mankind while we aimlessly search for momentary glory and worldly pleasure. Beware, there is an everlasting life after death. We will be resurrected and tried concerning our deeds on earth. Heaven is promised for those who indulge in good, and hell for those who desire evil. This is the evident truth, open to all with a mind to reflect. Study deeply the message of the noble Quran, the book revealed through the Prophet Muhammad, the incorruptible, error-free, and unimpeded book, the perfection of all divine scriptures. Let us live our lives in accordance with the noble Quran and the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the surest way to find everlasting and enduring peace on earth and heavenly blessings in the hereafter. Lord, make us blessed to be amongst those who are successful, both in this life and the life hereafter. Ameen.
إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت وما توفيقي إلا بالله عليه توكلت وإليه أنيب